partnerships for development, integration, and industrialization as catalyst for the structural transformation of African economies to develop to the next level of value-added economies in order to benefit from our own resources endowment. I'm reminded in this regard of the pledge that BRICS leaders at the Delhi summit to support efforts of the African continent have said that they will contribute to accelerate the diversification and modernization of their economies. This will be through infrastructure development, knowledge exchange, and support for increased access to technology, enhanced capacity building, and investment in human capital, including within the framework of new partnership for Africa's development, that's NEPAD, close quotes. Accordingly, President Zuma will host BRICS Leaders Africa Dialogue Forum retreat after the summit, of which the theme will be Unlocking Africa's Potential, BRICS and Africa Cooperation on Infrastructure. Strengthening infrastructure will promote intra-trade and assist to solve problems of high unemployment and sluggish economic growth created by financial crisis. This will also build a new foundation for long-term sustainable development of our economies. BRICS leaders have expressed support for infrastructure development in Africa and its industrialization within the framework of NEPAD in the Sanya Declaration and Summit of 2011. Same applied when we met again in India last year. Economists from Standard Bank estimate and confirm the figures that the two businessmen were referring to earlier on, and I don't want to waste too much of your time on that. I want to talk to South Africans that when we were hosting the first FIFA Soccer World Cup in this country, first we were told you are not ready. Second, we were told that there were some countries who were working on plan B, until one young man came and said, feel it, it is here. So, now that we are talking to progressive business men and women who know why we are calling ourselves progressive, feel it, it is here. South Africa is a member of BRICS. South Africa contributes to BRICS and completes BRICS, not with just bringing the S, but because the first vision, the declaration of the Sanya had now the vision of BRICS at the third summit, because South Africa had arrived. While South Africa is responsible for 2.5 or contribute just 2.5 of BRICS GDP, South Africa is responsible for 11% of BRICS Africa trade. South Africa trade was 35% greater than Brazil Africa trade and 200% greater than Russia Africa trade. And economists also project, as it has already been confirmed, that by 2015 we will surpass the 500 billion mark. This is the African country that leads the biggest economy on the continent. This is the country that has in situ mineral resources wealth worth 2.5 trillion, 2.5 trillion US dollars that is extractable today, with infrastructure that makes these resources to be accessible today. The question is, these things have to happen in our own terms. my dear brothers, members of the Business Council. We can no longer blame BRICS member states of selling things to us only in one way, and also of following the extractive approach. Because they have said in Sanya, they have repeated this again in Delhi, that they want to work with us on, it's in the declaration, on the industrialization and improvement on manufacturing capability of South Africa and other African countries. Many of these BRICS member states have also come back with buying missions, indeed, to say, we want to buy these things that you say we are not buying. Where are they? Maybe the Bahumani progressive business was a politic. Please don't translate that. Ga ba boya gape ba sentse ba re humane re re tše re nyaka go le rekišetša tšona ke tše ene re na le tšona because re a di-producer, so that we stop this thing about hi, you know, when you enter a relationship. Patrice said I'm no longer that young. You particularly a relationship between adults, it's mutual, like as Elizabeth. So it means that you also agree on the terms of this relationship. You can say, hey, now, I get a should have said that at the outset. If there are issues of non-tariff barriers, it shouldn't be that we individually raise these things and we are unable to make this gentleman seated here to work even harder. Of course, we are all members of the WTO, but because we also belong to the BRICS family, we should work with the Minister of Trade to make sure that the next meeting we shouldn't be quarreling about chicken giblets. We should be quarreling about big stuff, because progressive business is there, because we will have sorted out these things. I am not a business person. What I'm looking forward to on what progressive business people should do in all the BRICS member states, and what I've heard from our leaders, is that BRICS nations are all striving to enhance inclusive economic growth, an increase in creation of decent and sustainable jobs in all our member states, advance the fight against poverty, because we still have not only pockets, but sizable communities amongst our ranks who are still very poor, and accelerate the economic transformation of our countries. We also dream and work to realize a more equitable global political and economic system. This we will keep marching on. We will not shy away from talking about the reforms of global institutions, political institutions of global governance, including the United Nations and Security Council. We will continue to talk about how we should transform not only the IMF and World Bank, but all other international financial institutions. I know in South Africa, I don't know about Brazil and other countries, but I also know of India and a few other countries. But I guess that in all member states, majority of our populations are young. In South Africa, almost 60%. So there's absolutely nothing that we should do about the youth without them. What makes me more excited is that when you talk of young people, we also agree that women tend to live a little bit longer. And they happen to be, in my home country, more than 50% of the population. So next time we get into a meeting, we should see that reflection of these people who form the majority in our countries. Not because they will be bringing in the numbers, but because they will also be lifting themselves and stand counted, because they are going to be making contributions. If you go to all small-scale factories in China, they're owned by women. They run these things. They own them. You complain about China becoming the biggest manufacturer of socks. Who owns the factories? Women. Because they talk a little and do more. So, South Africa Incorporated must start at this BRICS summit, because I'm sure after this BRICS summit, we arrived, what remains is we've reached a turning point. We either grasp this moment and run with it, or we should forever be forgotten. Because if you complain beyond this, nobody's going to listen. BRICS has the potential to become the hub of ICT, of nanotechnology, of biotechnologies, as I said, information technologies, space technologies, and development of renewable technologies that will make us much forward with green economic developmental model. I once had the misfortune of being the chair of COP17, or of the Conference of Parties. And I've heard whispers from the West admitting that actually countries in BRICS have moved much faster in renewable technologies. So we have an opportunity not only to shine, but because we have people, because we have got the political will to do things right, because we want to protect the environment for the future, we should continue moving forward with that. I agree that one way of marching on as BRICS member states is to do what our forebears did. BRICS started, or the vision of BRICS started much earlier, when our forebears were talking of strengthening South-South cooperation. They did not have the means to travel like we have today, but they met and took resolutions on how we should improve on people-to-people relations. That's the only way you can improve the figures on tourism. We are doing very well, but we have to know each other better. The other area that we have to look at is, as we improve tourism, we should also be looking at communications as a means, as a tool to get to know each other better, but as a business opportunity. Gone are the days where we think we are emerging economic power block, but we still depend on other news agencies to know what's happening in our own backyards. One Greek friend of mine once said, you know, when you want power, I'm told the Greek philosophers used to think that if you want to be a powerful man, you need to grow a long beard, so that people mustn't be asking questions. When they see you, they must know now they've met that very powerful man. But he said, you see, there's no way you can continue to be respected if one don't have a pair of scissors to trim in the morning. You wake up in the morning to go next door to borrow. You also don't have a mirror to check. Mirror, I mean communications. If we are going to be depending on the others to communicate on our behalf about what we are doing and what we are about, then we will not be able to reach all these goals that we are putting up for ourselves. What outcomes are we looking forward to in the summit? I've had a lot of excitement from many ordinary men and women like me about how they are looking forward to hearing that we are forming a BRICS-led bank, a BRICS-led development bank. I've also had a chief, one of the men who referred to himself as chief economist of the World Bank, that there is space for such a bank to be established. I've also had one comrade of mine saying, hi, and I thought, I'm going to ignore that voice. I'm going to listen to this one that I am hearing, because I think that's where majority South Africans and members of BRICS want us to go. You know, when you march forward in a democracy, you are bound to just hear one reluctant soul wanting to shovagalula. So we need to keep moving on. So this is the responsibility of government, but With that, we are talking of the launch of the BRICS Business Council. We've just congratulated two gentlemen here behind me. It's not going to be very nice because you also have to help work with government to envision the future of BRICS. We are completing our cycle now, the first cycle. As we move in the next cycle of BRICS, what should we be doing to integrate our economies? Beyond that, where do we want to be in the next coming 20 years? How do we continue working on improving the lot of our economic well-being? So, if maybe we have, Dr. Davis, if your selection was mistaken, we are allowed to reconsider even now. If all they can speak to is about their own, and we now realize we wrong deployees, we can still change our mind now. Because the journey we are going to travel is going to first respond to, have they woken up to this turning point that